Having sat like this for an entire night with his total presence and wakefulness without losing awareness, no matter what came up in his mind, whatever possible distraction, without getting lost in mental poisons or confusion, he established himself in this awakening, this total presence, and that was his enlightenment. And maybe enlightenment isn't always the greatest word. There's a lot of different understandings of what that means and what the goal of Buddhism is, and different traditions talk about the goal in different ways. But we can say for sure that this word in Tibetan Buddhism, that this awakening is about an expansion and purification, this awakening and expansion of presence. So having had that realization that's known as the Buddha's enlightenment, he then went into retreat into the forest and spent time there, maybe 49 days, they say. It's a way of saying a lot of time, and doing practice and understanding what he'd realized. And finally, he, after this time of retreat and receiving spiritual initiation and requests from these celestial Buddhas, that he decided to return into the world and give a teaching on what it is that he had received, what insight that he had come out of this experience with. So he went to Deer Park in Varanasi in northern India, Nepal, and gave the first Buddhist teaching. And the first students were 5 disciples who had been his companions previously when he was doing the yoga practices. And when he had left them, they thought, oh, Siddhartha, he's falling off the path. He gave up his practice. And now here suddenly they saw him again. And so he stopped them and said, no, I actually had this profound awakening, and here is what I realized. And the teaching that he gave was the Four Noble Truths, which is the first Buddhist teaching. The Four Noble Truths, or the Four Certainties, are a kind of encapsulation of what the Buddha realized through this quest and this intense journey, and how he found the answer to human dissatisfaction and suffering, and the answer to this question of how to reconcile the worlds that he had known of power and pleasure and wealth and the material world and human life, with aging and illness and death and the possibility of spiritual awakening. And that all was encapsulated in the first Buddhist teaching, known widely as the Four Noble Truths.